Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Wednesday, June the 25th, 2025. And a beautiful morning here. Beautiful morning. It's been raining all night. It's holding off for now. Looks like the clouds have dispersed, but nice and brisk, but just, excuse me, absolutely beautiful. All right, bit to go over. Come here, Neil. Got you there. Hang on. On this day, we'll start with back in 1948, the great Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber, defended his world heavyweight title for the 25th and final time against Jersey Joe Walcott in the Bronx in New York, Yankee Stadium, I think it was. And he got a win by 11th round knockout over another great in Jersey Joe Walcott. So yeah, the 25th and final time. What a champion he was. And I know there's probably a few opponents in there that maybe didn't they used to call it the Bum of the Month Club or something? Was that him? Where he went through a series of opponents who weren't, let's just say, really world-class contenders. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. They fought a lot more often back then, didn't they? But 25 times, no matter who it's against. I mean, we're patting Deontay Wilder on the back for 10 world title defences against some of the guys he fought. So I think we can pat the Brown Bomber on the back for 25 title defences. And it's probably always debatable about where he sits in the world scheme as far as not pound for pound, it's heavyweight. It's only one weight, of course, where he sits in world heavyweight history. Yeah, I think a lot of people have him at number one. I don't think so. I think by resumes, yes. I mean, in this case here, 25 title defences, but probably another champion just being a little bit of a victim of maybe not having too, well, he had it as Charles and Walcott, didn't he? And Schmeling and these types of guys, not too many other great fighters around him at the time to showcase his greatness like some of the others had, and most notably, of course, Ali, Fraser, Foreman, all these guys. But I would still have Muhammad Ali as number one if I had to rank them. And again, if I'm being honest, I'd probably have, I'm hesitant to even say this because I know people will jump all over me, but I would probably have Larry Holmes at number two as the greatest heavyweight of all time. And I know that will rile a few people up. I'd probably even have someone like a George Foreman above Joe Louis at sort of number three. I'd probably have Joe Louis about number four, if not number five. But I think just sometimes we get a bit carried away with history and everything like that. And, you know, I'm just looking at it for what it is. And what I've seen of Joe Louis, of course, it's not like we can sit down and, you know, watch all his fights like we can these days. You can only sort of go by what vision is available, but I just always thought he was a little bit mechanical, a little bit robot-like. And I think Max Schmeling sort of proved, I suppose, some of the areas where he fell down. But look, I know I'll have some boxing historians come at me and say, what are you thinking? But I'm just going by what I think. And that is, I think Larry Holmes and even George Foreman were probably greater heavyweights than Joe Louis. And I'm probably even going to even more cause controversy by saying I think fighters like Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield could probably even make a case of being in front of Joe Louis. I can feel the heat coming through the screen right now, by the way. How dare you talk about the great Joe Louis? I'm not saying he wasn't a great fighter. I just think there was some that maybe were just a little bit better and were better fighters and with just as good resumes, especially Larry Holmes. But anyway, it's just me. I know he probably gets thrown in the basket of a Mike Tyson where he gets judged a little bit on his later career, but he's at his peak. Larry Holmes was amazing. And what do you have, about 16 title defences as well, I think, and just defended against every single contender available. So anyway, this is why we have these conversations. We've all got our own opinions. But I just don't get caught up in the romanticism of history, of what people think fighters were like. And Rocky Marciano is a classic example. Now, before everyone always hits me up about Rocky Marciano, you always talk bad about him. Look, I love Rocky Marciano, I really do. But for me, the fact remains, I just don't think he was anywhere near a great heavyweight. You know, again, we love the whole mystique of Rocky Marciano and the 49-0, but again, I don't take any notice of just numbers on a record. 49-0, it's fantastic. But look at the caliber of the opponents. Look at the wins that these fighters had, and probably in Rocky's case, I mean, he really struggled to knock, what was he, 38 or 39-year-old Joe Lewis out. Really battled against Jersey Joe Walcott and Nezzo Charles, and they were really on the back end of their careers too. So that's probably why I've been a little bit critical of Rocky Marciano's standing. But doesn't mean I don't love Rocky Marciano. This is what people say, oh, you don't like Rocky? I do like Rocky. I love Rocky. I'm just going by what I see. That's all. So, geez, I was just sort of going to what happened on this day, and I've probably ended up alienating half my my viewership. But anyway, as always, give me your thoughts as well. Ooh, always a great way to open a can of worms, isn't it? All right, so what else is happening? As expected, Tszyu has been asked about the comments from Michael Zarafa regarding him having his guaranteed fights with both Nikita and Tim. Now, I mentioned this, I was yesterday or the day before, that apparently the contract that Michael has from No Limit says that he has a guaranteed fight with both brothers. Now, as I said, Tim was asked about it. Now, he just said that Michael Zarafa is, just looking for a payday. He was desperate, living in his head, all that sort of stuff. Or both the Tszyu brothers were living in Zarafa's head. Now, look, that's to be expected. He's got to do this. I don't begrudge him for putting this out there. Whether it's true or not, who knows? But I don't mind, and I do understand what Michael's doing here. I mean, this is boxing. You have to do these types of things to get these type of fights. So I totally get what Michael's doing. And surprisingly, well, not surprisingly maybe, George Rose the other day, when he was asked about this by Jay McAllister, just had a little bit of a smirk and said, well, we will see. So that was probably the first sign that maybe some of it is true. But then even Tim, when he was asked about it, said about the Nikita side of things, saying, well, we'll see. It looks like, I think things might be on the go there. So we might actually have that fight, which would be fantastic. Nikita Tszyu and Michael Zarafa would be a great fight for Aussie boxing. As I said the other day, it looks like they're going to fight in August or September on a card together, and then potentially in December fight here in Australia. So it should be a great fight. But Tim just said, look, I'm not interested. This guy's got to just get my sort of name out of his head or his mouth or whatever he said. So, and that's what I said the other day with Tim. I mean, he's got very, very big fish to fry, if that's the term, if he gets past Fundora. And as I said, also, I just don't see him doing an about face and coming back to Australia to fight Michael Zarafa. Michael Zarafa. Even if Michael beats Nikita, I don't think you'll see Tim fight Michael unless he loses the Fundora fight and it's the next big thing for him or the next best thing for him. So, and I've said a few times, this fight is so massive for Tim Tszyu's career because, in my opinion, it is make or break. If he beats Fundora, it opens up so many options. If he doesn't beat Fundora, well, that's, for me anyway, his time at the top, even though it's been very, very brief at the real top I'm talking about, it could be over. So massive stakes. But as I said, I just don't think or could see Tim winning the belt and coming back and defending against Michael Zarafa, who is completely unknown relatively overseas. And especially the fact that he's rated at middleweight and not at 154 by the WBC, which would make it tough. But the other interesting thing from Tim was that, and I'm not sure whether a lot of you out there picked this up as well, but the media are now talking again about a hit list. Now, this just could be a media beat up, by the way. The Aussie media love to get ahead of themselves and have no grasp on boxing reality. You know, they hear all the whispers and they probably invent half the shit themselves, but they aren't really realistic as far as what the actual state of play in world boxing is. So they just go with it and just follow whatever they hear. But anyway, that's another story. But there was talk of another hit list with Tim. Now, I hope that's not the case. I would think it's not. I reckon, again, it's just the media who are building this up. But we remember he had the T-shirts made before he lost to Fundora with all the big names on it, and they were getting crossed out as he went. Good marketing ploy, though, I suppose. I'm sure they sold a few T-shirts, but I'm just hoping it's not the case this time where he has got this hit list. And I know they push him for a comment, and whatever comment he gives, they might just ask him what he thinks about fighting such and such a fighter and this such and such a fighter, and he gives his opinion, and then they say he's got a hit list for those two fighters. So I'm not getting too carried away by it all, but I'm just hoping that having his camp in Australia and being available to all the Australian media as often as they want and being pushed for different things and trying to shape different agendas, this is the media. I just hope they're not sort of pushing him back into the corner and into just making some statements that maybe I think at this stage of his career that he shouldn't be making. I just want to hear from Tim, and I think it's been pretty much the case. He has been more low-key than what he normally is, by the way, but I want to hear Tim to say, hey, I'm not interested in those guys. I'm not interested in anything at the moment except Sebastian Fundora, because without Sebastian Fundora, nothing happens. That's what I want to hear from Tim. And again, I know the media twist the comments and push a narrative and ask a question and then build a narrative around the answer. But all I want to hear from Tim at the moment is, to any reporter that asks him a question, mate, I'm just focused on Fundora at the moment. I couldn't give a shit about Charlo or Ortiz or Boachuk or Boots Ennis. He did mention Boots Ennis, by the way, how he'd love to fight Boots Ennis, but that's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear any, this is what we're looking at and this is what we're going to do. I don't want to hear any of it. Because at the moment, again, just in my humble opinion, I don't think Tim is in a position to be able to call those guys out and put them on a hit list. I don't think he's in the position. And I know a lot of the Aussie media and a lot of the Aussie fans got carried away with the Spencer fight, and Tim's back, and Tim's going to do this and going to do that. Hey, Spencer was nowhere near world class. I just want to see Tim do it against Fundora. I want him to get the win. Then let's talk about where he's at in the scheme of things. If he beats Fundora, so many doors open for him and potential big fights. But again, as I said, if he loses, well, where to? Where to? Nowhere. Where does he go? Not going to get another fight with any of those other contenders, except maybe as a cheap sort of B-side option. But the world title fights and all the standing and all the dreams sort of go up in smoke. So I'll say it again, such a massive, bloody magpies in a bloody aerial confrontation with each other. Must be different warring factions, I think. There's about 8 of them up in the air, all swooping at each other. So, but yeah, look, massive stakes. There we go. We've got about 6 massive kangaroos eyeing us off at the moment as well. So I think, Neil, we'll go this way. If you're watching from overseas, by the way, yes, I'm just avoiding kangaroos at the moment. We don't ride them down the street or anything, but they do sit in paddocks and eye us off and tell us to move on. But yeah, anyway, so all of that will be revealed, of course, in about, about 3 weeks' time. So it's going to come around very quickly. And I think it's under 2 weeks until I actually head off over there too, which I'm looking forward to. Now, just quickly too, guys, if you're, again, looking at the Canelo Crawford tour in September, hit me up now. Hit me up on the socials. Go to Instagram. Just waiting on the tickets to be released, but I'm ready to go. All right. So if you are looking at it, you're going to be looking at about $5,500 all up to go. That's fight ticket, accommodation, and return airfares. That's 6 nights in Vegas, by the way, staying at the Luxor Hotel and Casino. It is about a 5 or 10 minute walk to Allegiant Stadium. That's why I picked it. And it's a good little hotel as well, and priced pretty well. So let me know now anyway. But what else has been going on? Speaking of Terence Crawford, he was interviewed the other day and it sort of raised a few eyebrows, not just with me, but a lot of people. He was asked about, they were comparing resumes, him and Canelo. They had the sit down. And they were going back and forth, and Canelo, of course, you cannot say a bad word about his resume. He's pretty much fought everybody except David Benavides. I know, I get that. But apart from that, just a stellar resume. Just one of the best of all time, really. The amount of guys he's fought and beaten. But Terence Crawford, it was a no-win argument with Canelo, by the way. There's no way he was going to match his resume up with Canelo. But Canelo asked him, well, who are the big names you fought? Because he was trying to say, well, my resume is just as good as yours. And he came up surprising. This is a guy that's fought Errol Spence, Sean Porter, Gamboa, Khan, Brook, all these types of guys. And he was asked who the two probably better fighters on his record was, and he said Victor Postol and Ricky Burns. So I don't know whether he was flustered, he was just caught on the spot and just had a mental blank. I don't know. But how could you come up after you fought all those guys and Canelo asked you a serious question about, well, who are the guys you fought? And he comes up with Victor Postol and Ricky Burns and doesn't mention Errol Spence, who was on the pound-for-pound list when they fought, by the way. Mir Khan, yeah, well, whatever. Cal Brook, Yuriorkis Gamboa, just to name a few. Sean Porter, not to say these are Hall of Famers, although you never know. But he came up with those two guys, so it was really surprising. Now, Terence Crawford has said in another interview that if he beats Canelo, he will be in the mix for the Mount Rushmore of boxing. Now, again, I like Terence, but Terence, I think you're just getting a little bit delusional there, mate. I mean, Canelo, he's one of the greatest fighters of all time. But if you beat Canelo, is it any different to maybe beating an Oscar De La Hoya maybe? That's probably where I see Canelo's career, on a par with someone like an Oscar De La Hoya. But look at the other fighters that have beaten De La Hoya, Trinidad and Mosley and Pacquiao and Mayweather and all these types of guys. And they are Mount Rushmore type of fighters. But I'm not so sure Terence Crawford, even though it's a magnificent effort if he does pull it off to beat Canelo at 168, going up 2 divisions, I don't see it as that type of victory that's going to get him in pound-for-pound conversations. The fact that he's winning, if he does win, it'll be 3 undisputed world championships in 3 different divisions. That would be amazing. And yes, in my opinion, it would probably be enough to make him in the all-time great conversation. But as far as being on like the Mount Rushmore, we're talking 4 or 5 of the greatest of all time. I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. And if I had to choose off the top of my head, who would be on the Mount Rushmore of boxing? If you've got, say, 5, who would they be? Geez, I'm opening up another can of worms here. I'm just going to cop it for the Rocky Marciano and Joe Lewis comments, and now I'm going to cop it for this. Who would be on your Mount Rushmore of boxing? Just a question without notice to myself. All right, geez. All right, let's have a quick think about it. Muhammad Ali would be one. Sugar Ray Robinson would be another. Wow. Do I even attempt to say another 3? Who would they be? I can't even think without offending so many people out there. Would you have, well, definitely those 2, Robinson and Ali. Who would you have up there? Someone's out there saying, Rocky Marciano. No, I'm not putting Rocky Marciano up there. Look, I know I'm going to offend a lot of people. Would Manny Pacquiao be up there? Would he be up there for what he's done in the sport? His resume? Maybe not, because he's lost probably as many of the big fights that he's won. So those really big fights I'm talking about. Floyd Mayweather Jr., would you put him up there? I would probably have, I can't even think. Would it be Sugar Ray? Would it be Roberto Duran? I'm going to have a think about this. If you got the top 5, all right, well, I'm going to have to pick someone. Now I'll put it out there, aren't I? I'm going to put Sugar Ray Leonard up there as well. Who else? Just going through the divisions. I was about to say Julio Cesar Chavez, but I can just imagine what that will cause. Well, I really can't think at the moment. Sugar Ray, Ali, both Sugar Rays actually. Ali, let's maybe put someone like a Henry Armstrong up there as well. 3 world titles at the same time. And these aren't in between divisions. These are legitimate divisions. These are what was it featherweight, lightweight, welterweight at the same time, or was it lightweight, welterweight, middleweight? I can't remember. 3 at the same time. So I think you have to put him up there. One more. Is there how many is on Mount Rushmore? I've said 5, so I'm going to have 5, aren't I? So I have Duran up there. Did I say that? No, I didn't. Did I? So both Sugar Rays, Ali, Henry Armstrong. Someone out there saying you got to say this guy. You got to say this guy. I'm going to say. Do I put someone like Harry Greb up there? No, I'm going to put Floyd Mayweather Jr. There, I said it. Floyd Mayweather Jr. I think he's in the top 5 of all time. And someone has just spat their coffee all over their computer screen and thrown down their phone in disgust. You idiot, what do you know? I'm just going by what I think. I think I've got a good mix there, but give me your thoughts anyway. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to leave you there shaking your head thinking, what does this guy know about boxing? Have your say. Who's on your Mount Rushmore of boxing? Maybe I'll put a poll up about it and we'll have a chat about it anyway. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this Wednesday. Have a great day. Enjoy watching the fights tonight, by the way. The 2 Liams on the doubleheader. No Limit on Fox. Should be a great night of boxing. So until then, we'll catch you tomorrow.